Hello. I didn't see you there. I was too busy caught up in reading this interesting article about Kitty Genovese. Maybe you heard of it. But in case you didn't, here's how the story goes. On March 15th, 1964, but 2 days earlier, because it was really the 13th, at around 3:15 a.m., 28-year-old Kitty Genovese, an old bar manager, was caught, chased, and stabbed twice in the back by a young Winston Mosley. The thing is, he got caught as he was stabbing her and ran away. About 4 hours later, as she's bleeding out, he comes back to try to finish the job and stabs her multiple times once again. He ran away, and then she tried crawling on her knees into the nearby apartment building. But the thing is, he wanted to finish the job. So he came back a third time just to get it over with. There were so many eyewitness accounts, and yet nobody did anything about it. Today we're going to interview some eyewitnesses to see what they have to say about the Kitty Genovese case. So, I'm here with an eyewitness account of that fateful night. Excuse me, sir. Might I just ask, how come you didn't do anything to help Kitty?
Well, you see, there was tons of people around when it happened. So I figured one of them's gonna do it, right? So I ain't gotta do nothing. But then, nobody did nothing. And I felt bad, because I could have done nothing, you know? But I didn't. I was one of those people that didn't do nothing. And I felt bad. I should have done something.
Should have. Diffusion of responsibility. Excuse me, miss.
Yes?
You and 38 other people saw a murder happen and did nothing about it. Can you tell me why that is?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Kitty Genovese.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Miss, I saw you that fateful night. Now tell me, why didn't you help?
She was bleeding everywhere. I thought she was dead already. I figured someone else took care of that.
Just as I suspected. Pillhaven and Pillhaven, blood versus no blood study. Excuse me, sir. You and 38 people witnessed a murder and did nothing about it. Can you tell me why that is?
Not ready for it.
Excuse me, miss. You were one of the eyewitness accounts for the Kitty Genovese murder. May I ask, why didn't you do anything about it?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't my problem. She probably deserved it because she kept getting stabbed repeatedly, and the way she was dressed was inappropriate, and the fact that no one else wanted to help justified the fact that she deserved it.
Thank you.
Wait, what did you
Just world hypothesis.
I'm doing
I was just thinking. You know that Kitty Genovese case back in 1964 on March 13th at around 3:15 in the morning?
Yeah.
How did all those people that saw that happen just let her die?
Because of the bystander effect. The more people that are around, the less likely people are to help, which leads to the diffusion of responsibility, because people are going to just be like, well, there are other people there. They could have helped too. It's not my fault.
What diffusion of responsibility? What's that?
I'll show you.
The more you know.
The Seizure Study conducted by Darley and Latane is a laboratory demonstration of the bystander effect and the diffusion of responsibility. This study was done initially in response to the Kitty Genovese murder in order to find out how such an incident could have happened. One student was asked to communicate with another student via an intercom, completely unaware that this was a study related to the bystander effect. The student participating in the study would actually be hearing a tape recording rather than another student as they were told. Over the intercom, the participant could hear the other student having a seizure. Knowing that they were the only one who could help, they promptly got up, left the test, and called out for help. In the second case, more students were told to communicate with the other student down the hall, the tape recording. Knowing that there were more students available to help, none of the students actually did anything to help the other student except to be surprised. The responsibility of the individual is diffused when there are other people present who can also help. The greater the number of people present, the less likely the individual is to take responsibility for the accident. In essence, the more bystanders there are to witness an emergency, the less likely it is that any one of them will help. This can be related back to the Kitty Genovese case. As Darley and Latane found, the individuals that watched her murder weren't bad people, but they all played into the group mentality that surely someone else would help.
We are about to show you a reenactment inspired by Darley and Batson's Good Samaritan study. In 1973, seminary students were asked to give a lecture on the tale of the Good Samaritan, a well-known Bible study based on helping a stranger in need. Before heading to the lecture, they were told that they were either early, on time, or late to the lecture. On the way to the lecture, they would encounter a person slumped in an alleyway of an unknown condition. They could have been drunk, tired, or hurt. Only a select amount of people helped the person pick up their papers. In the end, the only independent variable that determined whether they would help or not was how late they were to the lecture. The topic of the lecture actually had nothing to do with whether or not they would help. If the student was late to the lecture, they would only help 10% of the time.
I guess she was late.
If they were on time, they would help 40% of the time.
I guess she was on time.
If the student was told they were early to the lecture, they would help 65% of the time.
Keep walking. Oh, goodness. Let me help you, man.
Looks like he was early. It must be because he's a man. Good morning, Pace Pleasantville, NYC. We are here today with the Bystander News Team Extreme, bringing you the utmost news about bystander and social psychology. Here I have John on the Cobb Rob and me, myself, Eric Benito Rivera. Take it away, John.
Well, thank you, Jeff. So, a couple things that I want to get started on. Well, we did talk a little bit before about the Kitty Genovese case, but we know since there was that case of Kitty Genovese in 1964, I believe, many other incidents have been marked as results of the bystander effect.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. One recent example is the case of the Apple Store employees who heard Jane and Mary being brutally murdered next door in a Lululemon Athletica store. The two Apple Store employees heard cries for help from Murray as she yelled, "Talk to me, don't do this." And later she pleaded to God to help her. "Please help me." And no one answered her call.
Instead, the two Apple employees eventually went back to work after hearing the cries as well as grunts, thuds, and hysterical screams. Murray was inflicted with 331 wounds and was killed.
Another more recent example of the bystander effect is that of Ki-Suk Han at the Times Square subway station. In 2012, Han was pushed down into the tracks by a homeless man, then struggled and pleaded for help for a full 22 seconds while witnesses just watched, took pictures, and failed to assist him. Shortly afterwards, he was struck by an oncoming train and died.
Tragedies such as the Holocaust as well have also been declared as being highly affected by the bystander effect. It was not just a coincidence that everyone that joined the German Nazi Party happened to be an evil person or something, but that groups are easily influenced by other people within those groups.
Indeed they are, John. Indeed they are. See, now that you're used to all this new information, I'm pretty sure you guys can go out to the world and be able to help anybody and not fall victim to the terrors of the
Bystander Effect.
I was just thinking.
Murray was inflicted with not one.
That's
what I thought of. Not two.
But 300.
But 331 wounds. Isn't that terrible?
Kitty!